Dr. Tom Friedemann's foray into vocational education was part accident, part by design. Following in the footsteps of his uncle and instructor, Gus Friedemann, Tom added an educational component to his marketing degree at OSU, setting the stage for when Putnam City West came calling.
Well, I was married and had a son and working at minimum wage at Cat's department store at that time on Main Street in Stillwater. And, teaching salary was a lot more than minimum wage, so I said, I'll do that, and I got into it. I just loved it. I just thought, this is my calling. This is what I was meant to do.
With Friedemann at the helm, Putnam City West DECA chapter quickly rose to prominence at the state level, winning highest honors. He left teaching to come to the state agency as the state DECA advisor for a stint, but was soon called to be on the administrative team at Great Plains Technology Center. It wasn't long before Tom would soon be beckoned back to Stillwater, however, serving first as the assistant state coordinator for area VOTEC schools, then settling in as the assistant state director.
As they say, the rest is kind of history. I was just at the right place at the right time at a very early age, made a lot of mistakes, but I had some folks who were so patient and said, hey, that's okay,
Back then, the map of technology center districts looked pretty sparse compared to today. And the state director asked Tom with the tall order of filling in those blank spaces.
He said, Tom, I am so tired of looking at all this white space. I want you to start filling that stuff in. And he said, whatever it takes, as much travel as you need, the manpower will provide it, but just start whining and dining those local chambers of commerce, those school boards of education, and start putting in new VOTEC schools. And so that's what we did. That was a big focus, and that's probably one of the most rewarding things I'd have to say in my career that I did was going to places like Woodward and Altus and Okmulgee and Ada.
In addition to his work filling in that map, Friedemann became a staunch advocate for vocational education among inmates. It became the subject of his doctoral dissertation and attracted the attention of another CareerTech legend, State Senator Jim E. Hamilton.
That was very rewarding to see his eyes light up when he said, this is what I've been trying to tell my folks over here, my colleagues here, that this isn't money wasted. He told me, he said, there isn't a better form of economic development than turning a tax user into a taxpayer, and that's what we're doing. Those guys don't come back.
He would leave the state agency again in 1997 and move to Francis Tuttle Technology Center, first as their chief of staff, and then taking on the role of superintendent in 2009. As important as Dr. Friedemann's official roles throughout the system were, he's equally known for his vast knowledge of CareerTech, chronicling agency history and presenting it through writing and presentations, a de facto role he stumbled into, almost by accident, courtesy of Larry Hansen.
Anyway, Larry was asked to do a Lions Club presentation in Altus, Oklahoma. And so the day before that, he developed laryngitis. And so he comes to me and says, Tom, as best as I can understand, he said, Tom, I can't do this presentation at Altus. Will you do it for me? I need you to go out to Altus and do it like the day before. Evidently, I did a good enough job to where it became my job from that point on, talking about CareerTech. Whenever somebody would want a presentation on CareerTech, I don't know that if you get star status by just reporting it, but all I did was just listen and try to remember as much. And I would take notes. After I'd get home, I'd write stuff down, and said, Larry said this, Dr. Tuttle said that, Arch said that. And but I had no idea I'd write a book about it someday.
That book, The Stars Aligned and the Rest is History, came out earlier this year. But that isn't the first book he wrote. Since his retirement in 2019, Dr. Friedemann enjoys watching his 8 grandchildren grow, catching as many OSU ball games as possible, and if he's not fishing, he's probably writing about fishing.
And so I retired, and I immediately went to the computer and just started writing my book based on about 60 years of fishing logs. And I've written 2 since that, and then but that's been very rewarding. So there were just, I guess, every time I was out, I'd see these lakes and these rivers. I think, so many fish, so little time. That's an old saying, But it was just time. I thought, I better do it now. I'm going to be too old to fish, And
Tom's detailed record keeping of all things personal and professional ensures the CareerTech story will continue on for years to come, with Tom's own legacy tied to it.
And I always hope that we never lose sight that all this could go away. With Dr. Tuttle and Arch Alexander and Larry Hansen and Dewey Bartlett and all those guys worked so hard to try to get together, I hope they say he helped make sure that we never lose sight of how important it is. If we're not aware of the history that we had, the life and death situations that we encountered and endured and overcame, and we just need to keep serving customers. So,
Congratulations to Dr. Tom Friedemann, 2024 inductee into the CareerTech Hall of Fame.